All right, buckle up, rugby fans. We're diving deep into the world of rugby in 2024.
Yeah, gonna be a fun one.
You guys sent us some seriously interesting articles this time, and let me tell you, it looks like things got pretty wild out there on the pitch.
Definitely did.
We've got Olympic upsets, records getting smashed left and right, and even some whispers, about a possible power shift in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So get ready for some surprising stats and stories that just might change the way you see rugby forever.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Some are calling it a new era for the sport, and honestly, when you dig into the details, it's not hard to see why.
I'm intrigued. So where do we start with all this?
Well, we saw familiar teams rising to the top, but in ways no one expected. And then you got those underdogs making history. Oh, and we can't forget the next generation of players. They just burst onto the scene this year.
All right, I'm all about those underdog stories. But first, got to talk about the team that's on everyone's mind. South Africa.
Hmm.
I mean, everywhere you look, people are calling 2024 the year of the Springbok. So what was so different for them this year? Because they've always been a force to be reckoned with, right?
Yeah, exactly. South Africa has always been known for their sheer power and strength.
Oh, sure.
But this year, they added something new to the mix. They brought a dynamic, almost unpredictable attacking style that caught everyone off guard. Their new coach, Tony Brown, really shook things up.
Wow, a new attacking style. Okay, so I got to know, how did that actually play out during the matches? Did they get results?
Oh, absolutely. It was a huge part of their success this year. They ended up with an 84% win rate
No way.
across 13 test matches, and hold on to your hats, 57 tries.
57.
That's like an average of 4.4 tries per game, which is, if you look back, a massive jump from their previous years when they averaged like less than 3.
All right, so a huge jump in scoring. Okay, I can picture those Springboks powering through, but scoring tries like that, that's a whole different level of intimidating. But tell me, did they still keep that traditional Springbok strength? Was it all just flashy offense this year?
No, no, not at all. They managed to blend their classic power with this newfound agility, which honestly made them even more dangerous. Don't forget, they also grabbed their first rugby championship titles since 2019.
Oh, right.
And for good measure, they got a clean sweep in the November Test series. First time they've done that since 2013.
Hold on. For those of us who might not be rugby experts, what exactly does a clean sweep in the November Test Series mean?
Ah, good point. Well, it's a huge sign of dominance on the world stage, basically. Those November tests, they're a series of matches played between the top rugby nations from the northern and southern hemispheres, right?
Okay, right.
So to win every single one of your matches in that series, it's a big statement. Shows you're at the top of your game. It means you can consistently beat the best.
All right, so a clean sweep means they didn't lose a single game against the top teams from the other hemisphere. That's a pretty clear message. But it wasn't all about their veteran players this year, was it? The articles mentioned some new faces on the Springboks, right?
Exactly. Rassie Rasmus, their director of rugby, he made some bold choices, brought in 12 brand new players, and throughout the year he kept 50 players in total.
50.
Yeah, it was almost as if he was showing off the future of the Springboks, giving those young guns a chance to shine alongside the veterans.
Wow. I didn't realize they brought in that many new players.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty bold move by Rassie Erasmus. And speaking of new players making a splash, those articles highlighted some incredible performances from some young breakout stars this year. Who were they?
Oh, yeah. These guys weren't just rookies with potential. They were out there making game-changing plays from the very start. We had Wallace Satiti from the All Blacks,
Okay.
Sacha Feinberg Mungamazulu playing with the Springboks, which, considering their year, not a surprise at all.
Yeah.
And then Emmanuel Fewa-Boso playing for England.
Okay, 3 young players, all making waves internationally. What stood out about them? What was so impressive?
Honestly, the biggest thing is just the impact they had at such a young age. I mean, just listen to this. Fewa-Boso scored 5 tries in his first year of Test rugby.
5. Wow.
Yeah. Amazing start to his international career.
Definitely is. What about the other 2?
Well, Feinberg Mungamazulu ended up scoring 52 points, which, even with all those experienced players on the Springboks, put him second on the team for points.
That's amazing.
And Satiti, he helped the All Blacks maintain their traditionally high win rate, boasting a 70% win rate when he played.
70%, that's huge. Okay, and they're all 22 or younger, which kind of makes you think, what does this mean for the future of the sport? Are we seeing a whole new generation of talent that's going to completely change the game?
I mean, it definitely suggests that the landscape of rugby could be shifting, right?
Yeah.
These young guys, they're bringing a new level of skill and athleticism, even strategic thinking to the game. They're pushing the boundaries and forcing uh, the more established players to up their game too. It's exciting, really exciting for the sport.
Sounds like it. But South Africa wasn't the only team shaking things up this year. Those articles also mentioned Argentina and Italy having some pretty big moments. What's the story there?
Well, this is where that whole new era idea really starts to, take shape.
Okay.
While South Africa was busy dominating, Argentina was making history in the Rugby Championship. They finished with their best ever record.
Really?
Yeah. They managed 3 wins, which is something they'd never done before.
Wow, 3 wins. Okay, so remind me, what exactly is the Rugby Championship?
Oh, right. It's the biggest international rugby competition for teams in the Southern Hemisphere.
Got it.
New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Argentina. It's a brutal tournament, really tough. So for Argentina to win 3 games against those powerhouses, it's a massive deal.
Got it. So it's kind of like the Southern Hemisphere's version of the Six Nations tournament in Europe.
Exactly.
All right, so 3 wins for Argentina. That's huge.
Yeah.
But what about Italy? What were they up to?
Well, under their new coach, Gonzalo Quesada, they showed some serious signs of a comeback. They ended up with 2 wins and a draw in the Six Nations, which for them is a huge improvement from recent years. Plus, their scoring average went up to 15.3 points per game,
Okay.
up from just 10 per game in 2022.
So more wins, more points. They're definitely stepping up their game. Sounds like the competition in international rugby is getting really intense. But I'm curious about some of their specific achievements. What were those defining wins for Argentina and Italy that really showed their forces to be reckoned with?
Well, for Argentina, it was definitely their victory over Australia.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing the headlines about that. Was it close?
Not even. It was a total demolition, 67-27. That's the biggest defeat Australia has ever suffered against Argentina in the Rugby Championship.
Whoa, 67-27. Yeah, that's a statement win for sure. What about Italy? What were some of their key moments?
Oh, they had a fantastic win over Wales, a team that's been, a thorn in their side for a while now. It was a tight match, went down to the wire, but Italy held on for a 22-19 victory. It was a real turning point for them. Showed they can compete with those top teams in the Six Nations.
So we've got Argentina making history with a huge win over Australia, and then Italy taking down Wales in a nail-biter. These weren't just flukes.
Oh, absolutely not. These wins, they were the result of some seriously smart strategies, improved skills, and I think a new level of confidence, too. They're signs that these teams are evolving, becoming real contenders on the world stage.
Wow, so it sounds like the traditional rugby powerhouses, they've got a lot more to worry about now. It's not just South Africa anymore. Argentina and Italy are coming for them.
Exactly. It's a whole new game in rugby, and it'll be fascinating to see how these teams adapt to these emerging challenges. But first, let's talk about something that really captured the world's attention this year, the Olympics.
Yes, the Paris Olympics. Rugby sevens at the Olympics is always, it's always such a spectacle.
Yeah.
What stood out to you? What were some of the big moments?
Man, the energy was just incredible. The Olympics were, a whirlwind of athleticism and drama. But honestly, for me, the most remarkable thing was just the sheer excitement surrounding rugby sevens. It really felt like the whole world was watching.
Yeah, and those numbers back that up, right? I mean, wasn't it record-breaking attendance for rugby sevens at these games?
Yeah. They sold a mind-blowing 500,000 tickets for the Rugby Sevens events. I mean, think about that. That's more than the entire population of a lot of countries.
Wow, that's massive. So a truly global audience for rugby sevens. And speaking of attention-grabbing moments, there are a couple of pretty big upsets, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I'm thinking about France and the USA in particular.
Those were some seriously memorable moments. France, playing on home turf, they managed to pull off their first ever Olympic medal in rugby sevens. And not just any medal, gold. The crowd, they went absolutely bonkers.
A gold medal at home, that must have been unreal.
Yeah.
Not just for the players, but for the whole country. What a boost for rugby in France. And what about the USA team? What was their big moment?
The USA women's team, who had never medaled at the Olympics before, they fought their way to a bronze. It was a historic moment for them and for women's rugby in America.
Wow, that's incredible. It really shows how rugby is growing in strength,
Right.
outside those traditional powerhouses. But what makes these Olympic upsets so significant? I mean, are they just exciting moments, or is there something more to it? Do they actually have a deeper impact on the sport?
Well, they're definitely exciting, but I think they also signal some real changes for the future of rugby. These upsets, they showcase just how global the sport has become, and that's huge. More people watching means more interest, which means more investment, and ultimately more competition. It could even lead to, a whole new wave of talent and innovation in rugby.
Okay, so those upsets are like a ripple effect, kind of changing the whole landscape of rugby. Pretty powerful stuff. But speaking of changing landscapes, we can't forget about club rugby, right? Those articles talked about Toulouse having a pretty incredible year. Tell me about their journey to the top.
Oh, man. Toulouse had a year for the ages. There's no doubt about it. They pulled off something truly special. A double win. They won both the top 14 title, which is the premier club competition in France, and the Champions Cup, which brings together all the best clubs from all over Europe.
So they're champions of France and Europe. That's a whole other level of dominance. What was the secret to their success? How did they do it?
Yeah. Well, it was a combination of things, really. They had a clear strategy, strong coaching staff, a roster full of, just world-class players. But honestly, I think the most important thing was their unwavering belief in themselves. They just knew they could do it.
Yeah, I remember reading about their attacking style. They were unstoppable. What were some of their standout moments when it came to, the actual gameplay?
Oh, their attack was a thing of beauty, relentless. They were scoring tries from everywhere. They had a 72% win rate across both the top 14 and the Champions Cup, which is just ridiculous.
Seriously.
And get this, in the top 14 final, they crushed Bordeaux.
Yeah, 59-3.
59-3. That's insane. Sounds like they were playing on a whole other level. But is it sustainable? Can Toulouse keep this up, or will other clubs catch up eventually? That's the big question, isn't it? They've set a really high bar, both for themselves and, for the rest of the club rugby world. So it'll be interesting to see if they can keep evolving, keep staying ahead of the competition. But rugby's a dynamic sport, right? There are always teams out there hungry to knock the champs off their throne.
For sure. The competition never stops. Okay, so we've got South Africa dominating internationally,
Yeah.
Argentina and Italy emerging as real contenders, Olympic upsets showing us how global rugby's becoming, and then Toulouse setting a new standard for club rugby. It feels like we're seeing a turning point in the sport, a shift in power.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a really fascinating time for rugby. We're seeing this convergence of factors, the rise of new powerhouses, the emergence of young stars, the growing global audience. It's making things so dynamic and unpredictable. Anything could happen.
That's what makes it so exciting to watch. It's not just about the scores anymore. It's about the stories, the rivalries, the evolution of the game itself.
Yeah.
But with all these changes happening, what does this mean for the future of rugby?
That's the million-dollar question. Will the traditional powerhouses adapt and, reclaim their dominance? Or are we entering this new era where the underdogs take over?
It's like the whole rugby world is on the edge of its seat, waiting to see what happens next.
And that's what makes it so exciting. We're at a real crossroads here, and the path rugby takes from here on out.
Well, it'll be fascinating to watch. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's go back to some of those individual stories that shaped this remarkable year.
Yeah, let's hear about those players, those coaches, the moments of brilliance that made 2024 a year to remember in rugby.
All right, so we've talked about the big picture, the teams, the tournaments, the global trends. But what about those individual stories, the human element? That's what makes rugby so captivating. Who are some of the standout players, maybe some coaches that really made their mark this year?
Well, that's a tough one. Where do we even begin? There were just so many incredible performances, so many moments of brilliance. It's hard to pick just a few. But I think we got to start with Handré Pollard.
Oh, yeah. Handré Pollard, the Springbok fly half. He's been a key player for South Africa for years, hasn't he? What made this year so special for him?
He was just instrumental in their success. His leadership out on the field, it was undeniable. And his tactical kicking, that was a real game changer. He finished the year with 74 points.
Wow.
Highest total for any Springbok player.
74 points. That's incredible. But wait, wasn't there a newcomer on the Springboks this year?
Yeah.
Someone who also put up some pretty impressive numbers.
You're talking about Sacha Feinberg Mingamanzulu.
Yes.
Oh, he was a revelation this year. He had an amazing debut season, racking up 52 points, second highest for the team. And remember, this is a young guy just starting his international career. To see him perform at that level, it was pretty special.
Yeah, it really shows you how much talent is coming up through South African rugby.
Yeah.
But let's move on to some other players. Who else really impressed you this year, maybe outside the Springboks?
I was really blown away by Artie Savea,
Oh, yeah.
the All Blacks flanker. He's an exceptional player, a real workhorse out on the field. He's known for uh, his relentless defense, his ability to win the ball back, and his tireless support for his teammates.
He sounds like the heart and soul of the All Blacks team.
Hmm.
Any standout moments from him this year?
Oh, yeah. He had this amazing game against France in the November tests, made tons of tackles, kept disrupting their attacks. He was a real thorn in their side, and, a big reason why the All Blacks won that match.
So we got Handré Pollard and Sacha Feinberg-Mungumazulu leading the way for the Springboks. We got Artie Savea shutting down attacks for the All Blacks. Who else was making headlines?
Well, Antoine Dupont, the French scrum half, he was a force of nature for both Toulouse and the national team.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people consider him one of the best players in the world, and for good reason. His vision on the field, his speed, his creativity, he's a constant threat.
Antoine Dupont. He's a game changer, that's for sure. I remember seeing him play in the Six Nations. He was electric. But let's not forget about the coaches, right? Any coaches stand out to you this year? Ones who really made an impact on their teams?
Definitely. We already mentioned Tony Brown, the Springboks coach, the one who really transformed their attack. But I also think we got to give some credit to Gonzalo Quesada for the improvements he made with the Italian team.
Yeah, their performance in the Six Nations was impressive. How did Quesada change the team? What was his approach?
He brought this new level of professionalism and structure to the team, really instilled a belief in their abilities, and he encouraged them to play a more expansive attacking style of rugby.
So it wasn't just tactics. It was about mindset, too. He helped them believe in themselves, and that led to better results on the field. Sounds like a great coach.
I agree completely. It's not always about, the plays and strategies. It's also about motivating your players to be their best. And that's something that all those great coaches we talked about today, they all share that quality.
Okay, so we've seen incredible performances from veterans like Handré Pollard, young stars like Sacha Feinberg-Mungumazulu making a name for themselves, workhorses like Artie Savea, and then we've got coaches like Tony Brown and Gonzalo Quesada transforming their teams with innovative tactics and inspiring leadership. It's been a year packed with individual brilliance and a lot of heart.
It really has. And I think those individual stories, those moments of triumph, they're what make rugby so special. It's a sport that's constantly changing, but it's always about the human spirit, that drive to push further, overcome obstacles, and achieve something truly amazing.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's been fantastic diving deep into the world of rugby with you today. From those dominant Springboks to the Olympic upsets, the rise of new challengers, those inspiring stories from players and coaches, it's been a year we won't forget anytime soon.
Absolutely. And as we head into a new year, I'm really excited to see what happens next, who's going to rise to the top, what new stars will we see, how's the game going to keep changing?
Those are all great questions to think about. But one thing's for sure, the world of rugby is full of surprises, and we'll be here to break it all down for you. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep enjoying the incredible world of sport.